Gather up the troops. Yeah.
All right.
All right. Let's see what Splainer has to say.
Ooh, Perkins, you ugly mother.
Y'all enjoy that little bit.
Actually, what are these?
Hey, how you doing, Splainer?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Can't complain.
How are your burns doing?
I'm sorry. Say again.
How are your burns doing?
My what?
Your burns.
My burns. Oh, you saw the footage.
No. But now that I know there is footage, I'd love to see it.
Yeah. I don't have it handy, unfortunately.
Okay. So I'm here to talk to you about...
Oh, wait. Maybe I do.
Okay. So essentially, I did a subpoena for everybody who was affected by the Molotov
back at you.
From Mr. Chang on April 28th, and your name came up. And I was wondering if you were a eyewitness. Did you see Mr. Chang throw the Molotov?
I did not. I was at the moment the situation occurred. I was looking for AJ Hunter. I thought he had left the vicinity. I had pulled up my MDT, or I pulled up my MDT to look at the GPS. Didn't notice his blip. Turns out he was so close to me. Our blips were one on top of the other.
Yep.
And that's when I was mentally advised he was close by. So I looked at him. I was like, oh, there he is. And it was in that moment the crack of the Molotov hit, and I was on fire.
Okay. So I know that Sergeant Hunter was the
However, I do understand that there's some members of the judicial system that expect a uncanny ability of perception in cases in which memories are imagined extremely vividly, in which case I probably could identify him, but given that I do not adhere to the supernatural powers of absolute
Are you feeling okay? Are you dehydrated? You are
No.
speaking straight voodoo nonsense to me right now, Brian.
Yeah, never mind. I didn't see anything.
Okay, that's mainly what I needed to know. Do you know if anyone else was there? Can you rattle off any names that would have saw something? Because I have subpoenaed the
AKA
medical
not a
records,
Vaughn
and what I
Andy.
was
Yeah,
told-
exactly.
Hello, officer.
Hello, I'm Brian's partner.
Oh, it's nice to meet you.
You know, that looks pretty good.
Yeah, well, this is what these people do to me. Okay, Brian.
Who's these people?
You know, the same people that want Nino back.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
You know, oh, okay, that would actually explain a lot now.
Yeah.
So essentially, from that whole event, I have one eyewitness that doesn't want to testify, another eyewitness, which is a cop, which is great, but I like operating by a rule of three. If I can have three different people saying...
Yeah. What I could tell you is that after the events took place, AJ Hunter would have been a witness. Law enforcer was a witness. I believe. These are names you're gonna have to ask them.
Yeah.
And then I believe Lauren was there with another officer as well, but I can't recall the name. It may have been Bo. Unfortunately, there was footage that was unrecoverable that would have helped in this investigation.
638, just be on the lookout for a group called the Crimson Boomers. They left 2 notes from a PD claiming that many people will die tonight.
So I have law enforcer, possible, Bodine Tucker question marks, footage, unrecoverable, which fuck. Do you know how to contact Jerry Slime? Who the hell is Jerry Slime?
Unsure. I mean, there would have been a number of individuals that would not have sustained any injuries, based on my understanding. And due to the fact that, I did witness the fire spreading. And the best I could be a witness for. So let me tell you from my perspective, the best I would be able to articulate is the direction that the fire started. That I recall the, so where the fire would have started and the angle of it. And I know that it was Mr. Chang and Mr. Not Chang in the ring fighting. I know where AJ Hunter was standing. So like in relation to like directions and where the fire started, and it started roughly around where I was standing. Those are the things that I could probably bring up.
Mr. Chang is another name that came up on my medical records, and I need to find a way to contact him too, because I can't find his email address or anything like that. I don't know how to subpoena the dude if I don't have his email address,
Mm-hmm. One thing that you're going to be up against is that when we arrived at the scene, one of the reasons there was a bit of a spectacle was due to the fact that there was a lot of individuals dressed up as members of the Chang gang. So there's going to be my guess is their biggest challenge here is going to be, was it Mr. Chang or was it Mr. Shang, or was it even them in the first place, given many individuals were dressed up as others?
Yeah, and the thing is I have a hot butter knife to cut through that bullshit, because I've thought about this and talked to Sergeant Hunter about it.
Okay.
And essentially, Sergeant Hunter saw Chang throw the Molotov, then pursued him him away from the scene of the crime and maintained positive eyes on him until he fled the scene of the crime. So that is a officer being able to testify, hey, I saw him throw the Molotov. I saw him beat... I need to review his statement again. I believe he said that he saw the fight from beginning to end. He saw Chang throw the Molotov, and then Chang fled through the chaos because, like 15 fucking people just got arson committed against them. Which was something that I was thinking about.
But I'm confused. No, I don't want to.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I would question. I'm playing devil's advocate here.
I appreciate that, honestly.
So you say that you can cut through the bullshit by saying AJ maintained eyes. The DOJ has a history of nullifying or not adhering to officer testimony. If there's any question about what if it's at any point brought into question whether that individual may have a lapse of recollection.
Okay, so this was going to be my attack strategy, essentially. Is so AJ Hunter saw the thing from beginning to end, so I was going to bring him up in order to assert the narrative, and then I was going to bring the other witnesses, the EMS, which also saw what happened, to assert.
Okay, you have
narrative.
those names.
Yeah, they're the only ones that the EMS are basically the only ones that were on the report that provided statements. So essentially what I'm trying to do is...
You're establishing enough witnesses, or at least credible witnesses, so that it is undeniable that who it was that threw the Molotov.
Yes, and the thing is that if AJ is saying that Chang fled and successfully fled and escaped custody, and Mr. Shang, who was the only other person up on the ring at the time who could be reasonably mistaken for Mr. Chang, was recovered and medically treated, then we have AJ Hunter establishing custody of Mr. Chang, and we have, I believe, a Miss Bailey Jade establishing custody of Mr. Shang. So we have a positive narrative and chain of custody for both of these people.
Okay, so you're saying chain of custody, but AJ Hunter never had Mr. Chang in custody, did he?
He had verbal. He had not verbal. He had what is it called when you see somebody? Anyway, he had eyesight contact. He had eyesight custody of Mr. Chang since he threw the Molotov until he fled the scene.
Devil's advocate, there was other people dressed up as Mr. Chang as well in this Halloween party.
Oof, that's not good.
No,
a Halloween party in fucking April?
Halloween. I don't know, Halloween fucking boxing match. I don't know whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, the thing is I have Sergeant Hunter saying that he reasonably has eye contact on this person and maintained it until he fled the scene. So like Hunter was going after Chang and trying to arrest Chang and just couldn't catch up to him and couldn't and basically lost him in the chaos, but saw that it was Mr. Chang that did it. So essentially the narrative being established that Mr. Chang and Mr. Shang went up into the arena, had a fight. Mr. Chang lost the fight. Mr. Chang pulled out the Molotov in air quotes celebration and threw it into the fucking crowd, injuring 15 people, sending 3 into the ICU, and one Miss Harper Normandy lost her life. And that's where the murder charge is coming from. She succumbed to her wounds. So with that in mind, we have
just to
positive
keep,
idea of go ahead.
I'm gonna do a little bit more devil's advocate. So let's pretend you're AJ Hunter and I'm the other lawyer. Mr. AJ Hunter, were there members of Chang Gang at this event?
Yes, there was Mr. Chang himself. There was reportedly Rami.
Sorry, this is a yes or no question.
Oh, yes.
Were there individuals dressed up as members of Chang Gang?
Nope.
Yes.
Negative.
Could you identify which one of those members was in the Chang Gang and which ones were just dressed up as members of Chang Gang?
So most of the questions.
Sir, yes or no question?
I could object to all of these, Brian. God damn it.
What would the objection be?
So the objection to the one that you just stated is the creation of material fact. He's not going to stop and question absolutely everybody. The one
what really? Yeah. But you're asking a question as to whether or not there were other people there dressed up as members of Chang Gang.
Yeah, so let's say that was your rebuttal, that there were members there, other people were there dressed up as Chang Gang. How would you possibly know that the person up in the ring was Mr. Chang himself, right? If he fled custody? That's good. That's a good one. I like that one, Knight. That's a good. Bringing into question Chang's identity would be...
Exactly.
That's fucking good.
Yeah, that's from the beginning why I don't even think this is going to happen, quite frankly.
Yeah. So I would need to find a way I need to talk to Hunter about how he positively identified Chang. Did he speak? Did he visually see his face? I mean, if he was at the highlight of the event and he was in the ring, then
because it's going to come down to they're going to say, was there an ID? Was he ever in your physical custody? Did you fingerprint him? And then when you also know that people are dressed up as members of Chang Gang, how do you definitively know it was Mr. Chang and not Mr. Swang and Mr. Shang, you know?
Yeah.
And Mr. Chang was playing video games at his house.
So we never had positive ID on Mr. Chang?
Nope.
Why are we pushing this case?
So
welcome to my world. Well, number one, because nobody wanted to take it on. And as the victim, I took it on anyways to at least make sure due diligence was done because there was a death. No, nobody wanted to touch this shit, and I fucking had to rally the troops. But even then, I just wanted to establish whether or not there was a charge to be had.
I mean, obviously, the charges of murder, arson, and attempted murder times 3, those are things that the EMS can substantiate because they actually have some sort of recollection as to who was killed, who was injured. I have medical reports from them.
Now, I'm not saying this shouldn't go to court because ultimately a life was lost, and there's enough reason for us to believe that it was Mr. Chang.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, probable cause is certainly established. And
yes, exactly.
I would say
actually winning that case is going to be a hell of a upward battle.
It is if they bring in the whole Halloween costume argument into play.
Which they would. I can't imagine they have a shit lawyer. Like, that's the immediate thought that comes to mind. It's one of the reasons why I get a lot of bullshit about why I don't push certain things, because if I can't do that, the positive ID, I know I'm just going to get fucked in the ass. You know what I mean? The only reason that this has merit and grounds is due to a death. And that's where it's like we're almost obligated to do our due diligence, even if it doesn't go in our favor.
Yeah, and it makes it to where some of the technical accuracy of the case gives leeway to the gravity of the case itself. Which, I mean, you know, welcome to my fucking world. When I never wanted to push the charge for the murder of Boba Stone because we had basically fucking nothing other than a dude going in a direction. But we had to pursue justice where we thought justice lay. So we had to bring it to court. Same thing with Caden Delano. I mean, she even had a dying declaration, which helped seal the deal a little bit. But even that one was all circumstantial evidence. So I think we have enough circumstantial evidence here with, you know, like I think it's Talay Savage is saying, you know, Mr. Chang threw the bottle, and AJ Hunter saying, yeah, Mr. Chang threw the bottle. I may be able to call into the relationship of Mr. Chang and Hunter and Savage and be able to say, how many times, you know, Hunter, how many times have you arrested Mr. Chang? Hundreds, thousands, whatever, intangible number, right? So you should be able to prove
having like a historical. You're trying to establish like there's enough of a relationship there that being able to visually identify Mr. Chang versus someone dressed up as Mr. Chang. Is that where you're going with this?
Essentially, and you know, like if Mr. Chang was celebrating the event, then there would be there would be a voice aspect into there, and we would be able to say, you know, so Mr. Chang was up on a stage, AJ Hunter visibly saw him and was able to see his features.
Yep.
So we have multiple different things where this
every witness, I think, that would need to establish that. You'd have to establish that in your line of questioning, so that that aspect of the defense is suppressed.
Yeah, when the foundation is muddy, you got to hammer the post deep.
76.
I'm on Eclipse
To put it
Boulevard.
into
I
a
need to
metaphor,
return to PD to get my stuff.
So I need to talk to Lauren. I need to talk to Tucker. I want to find. I need to find a way to contact Mr. Chang, because if I can get Mr. Chang to say, "Hey, I was up there and I was fighting Mr. Chang, and I didn't throw the fucking Molotov, and I got picked up by EMS after being fucking burned and being afraid for my life," that would be huge.
Yeah.
I just
no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hold on, give me 1 second.
Yeah, go ahead.
495 PD, what's going on?
Chang just robbed me.
Oh, fuck! Wait, you already started the operation?
No, you motherfucker was supposed to ride together. This is what I get.
What do you mean we weren't supposed to start Operation Dragon Slayer, a.k.a. Operation Chang Bang yet? Were you lying in front of Pillbox?
What the
I
fuck?
was just buying burgers and I pulled him over.
Oh, my God.
Mino, if you pull over Mr. Chang, you're going to ask for 77 next time.
I didn't get the chance because they put me in cuffs, spats.
Minnie, did you get picked up or no?
I got my vehicle. They just stole my PDAR. I have to go get a new one.
Oh, 10-4. I'm sorry. I thought you needed a...
Wait, who has your PDAR?
Mr. Chang took it.
Raid season, boys.
Commencing Operation...
You ready for this?
Yeah. Do what you got to do. If we find any fucking Molotovs in his house, I want them.
Mission accomplished. Well done, Minio.
Hell yeah.
So Minio, I'm just piecemealing together what I think I just heard. Minio had his.
Yeah, but I don't think. I'm just sweating him. I don't think there's any. We're not going to bust in any houses and actually find Mr. Chang, right? Let's stay on this topic because I think this is the most important.
Yeah, we're just getting the murder conviction.
Now, another thing that you're going to have working against you is, like I said, I was there while everything was put together. Some things were dropped along the way. I hope you understand that I was on wit's end during that whole situation for a number of reasons. But we did not take any statements. We took statements, but we did not
You're responding to
Or
an
with
arson
Rutledge,
event with
Robert.
18 plus fucking
Mhm.
victims where multiple cops were injured themselves. I don't expect you to
638
walk up
St.
to
Travis.
somebody burning and fighting for their life and say, "Hey, so who did this?"
No, I agreed. But and we didn't know that the death occurred until much later.
I mean, that's usually how burn.
But where I'm going with this is that
Code 6.
the statements, I don't know how you want to go about this, but of the statements that have been taken, none of them have been brought in for questioning. Questioning that would include things like, who else was there? Which would then give way for additional witnesses. Would also give way with a possibility that there was a witness there that did further positively ID Mr. Chang.
Yeah, which is essentially what I'm doing right now. Is I
recommend
got one note of the spider. So essentially, I know that Bailey J told AJ Hunter, "Hey, these 3 people went into the ICU. I got the subpoena, got all of your names. You were one of the names that blipped up, and I know that I can trust your input." Which is why I came to you almost instantly and said, "Who did you see?" And we're breadcrumbing and spiderwebbing our way into a larger, more secure case. And in the meantime, while I don't think law enforcement or Bodine Tucker's on duty, so I can't really talk to them right now.
You could probably send them an email to see if they can get into the city for this, or alternate. That's what would be my recommendation. I mean, just based on the report alone, I don't think you have enough to actually win this case, just in my opinion.
Especially if some of my eyewitnesses are not wanting to testify. Like, they're willing to take criminal charges instead of testify.
Yeah, well, there may be some. Have you considered going down the route of a sealed deposition?
The thing is that basically, because that report was released, their names are already in the limelight. If they were to be in danger, they would already be in danger.
Excuse me?
A sealed deposition means that their names never hit the public.
No, I understand that, but no, wait, I'm confused.
The three that we would be trying to protect would be the EMS.
That's it, though, right?
Yes.
Okay, I can tell you that there's other witnesses there that probably saw something and probably positively ID'd somebody as well. That includes the brother of the fallen victim, who is currently in hiding.
Who?
Hardy.
I think I looked up a criminal record for Normandy earlier. Give me a second. Harvey Normandy.
Yes. Yeah. So, but do you see where I'm going with this? So it really depends on how much resources are actually desired to put behind this. I'm helping for the sake of, I don't care what it is, I'm here to lend a hand, but I'm also being blunt and honest. You know what I mean? And that is, if you need more, there's plenty more available to secure this case, depending on how much it's desired to be secured. Plenty of witnesses that can be found via questioning those known witnesses. Room for sealed depositions that do not get released, ones that are not on that docket at this time. For all we know, somebody had a very clean and obvious interaction with Mr. Chang. It could be something as simple as them talking shit, and Mr. Chang relaying information that only Mr. Chang would know, and not some false, individual.
So this event, was it random or was it hosted? Does somebody own that part of the beach?
Believe it was hosted. AJ Hunter would know more about it. I went there with him. My mind wasn't fully in it because it's just 2 guys fighting each other. You know what I mean? So I was just chilling, waiting for something to pop off at the time.
Yeah, and 2 people were called to the defense's witness list: Mel Rickenbacker and Wayne Biggest. Do you know what involvement they had? Were they even fucking there? Because
I vaguely remember they would have been there since they're very close to the Chang gang. They would also, undoubtedly, perjure themselves if necessary. So you've always you're going to have to be fighting that as well.
Yeah.
Given that they're on there,
I'm just wondering what their involvement is and what their spin is. What could Mel Rickenbacker say to throw a shadow of doubt? What could Wayne Biggis say to throw a shadow of doubt?
Easily that they were on the other side of the, that they were dressed up as Mr. Chang and threw the molly.
Possibly.
Yeah.
The thing is, they would be taking the fall for the murder charge at that point, which I don't know if. I mean, I guess loyalties run deep.
Well, true. Okay, well, that's a good point. So the alternative would be. By the way, I'm enjoying this a lot. I like the mental
gymnastics to try to find what hoops people would run through.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They could say that there was another guy whom they don't know who looked like Mr. Chang who threw the molly.
Yeah. So I think
thus reestablishing I think the defense's biggest, their biggest defense right there, which is creating doubt over the ID of Mr. Chang.
The fact that it was like a air quotes costume event or like a Halloween event is probably one of the easiest ways to throw the shadow of doubt in there, especially if there were multiple people dressed up as Mr. Chang that were cosplaying as Mr. Chang. Because, the idea here is we need to establish positive identity of when did the narrative begin? When did AJ Hunter first see Mr. Chang? If he saw him up close and personal in a clean interaction before the fight started, great. Then he positively ID'd him then. Mr. Chang went up into the ring because he was called up into the ring and fought Mr. Shang. Mr. Shang, I have no idea who the hell that is, but I'd like to talk to them. But essentially, we need to find the chain of custody for Mr. Chang's identity up to and including the point where the Molotov was pulled out and thrown.
If that were to then transition to AJ's chain of custody, as you call it, it would at least establish his identity throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, because it's a positive narrative of basically maintaining Chang's identity is the fact that a Molotov was thrown and the fact that somebody died from it, 3 people were critically injured and 15 people were minorly injured. That's not in question. That fucking happened. Who did it and establishing identity, I think, is the dog in this fight. It's the elephant in the room. Tally Savage, I want to talk to her and figure out how she identified it as Mr. Chang because she said it was Mr. Chang in her statement. I want to talk to Sergeant Hunter again and understand what conceptual boundary does his positive identity lie in. And I want to talk to law enforcer Bonnie Tucker, Harvey Normandy, and Mr. Shang and see if they have any way of also establishing positive identity. Because mentally, this is what I like to do when I'm actually going for a case, which I'm very much so going for this one. I want a conviction out of this one. Is a rule of 3. I need 3 people. I need 3 birds singing the same story. If I can get Tally Savage and AJ Hunter to arrive at a common point in their narrative, focusing on their 2 different entry points of narrative and make the narrative precipice of the plot essentially right at where they keep the identity of Mr. Chang and where Mr. Chang throws the Molotov.
So no, Nino Chavez used to be a lawyer.
Something pretty solid right there. And if I can get law enforcer Bodine Tucker, Harvey Normandy, or Mr. Shang also confirm
there's a reason why
Mr. Chang that was up
certain
there in the
things
arena
I don't push for
Mr. Shang,
because I know I can
great.
beat
and if
myself
they're
in
going
court.
to, considering that is my attack pattern here, if I can get Wayne Biggis or Mel Rickenbacker to also say, yeah, Mr. Chang participated in that fight, and I have other people singing the song that Mr. Chang and Mr. Shang were the only 2 people in the ring, and the one that was left standing is the one who threw the molly, which is, as far as I understand up to this point, that they threw that Molotov in celebration. And we have multiple different people on our side saying, yes, it was Mr. Chang who threw the molly out of celebration. He's the one who was left standing out of the fight. And I can get Wayne Biggis and Mel Rickenbacker to say, yeah, Mr. Chang and Mr. Shang were up there in the arena. Then that's just that I've turned their witnesses into a double-edged sword.
To be
While
fair,
they may introduce some factors
DA's job is always the most difficult.
Perjury. I can
Always.
prosecute them for that later. However, I can cut through their bullshit using our own witnesses and use them as positive affirmation of narrative.
I would agree. Also, discrediting them would be a smart strategy as well. Make them lie with evidence that is not evidence via testimony so that it wouldn't show up on the docket. And what I mean by that is any sort of slip up get them to at least mildly perjure if possible.
Considering that I'm not going to call them as my own witnesses, so I don't have an opportunity to force them to testify. So I've thought about this a while and talked to other members of the DA's office about it, and I feel like that the best way to do that is to call them as my own witness, force them to testify in a certain way.
Absolutely.
Give them sculpted questions.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
And when they testify in a different way, once defense gets a hold of them, boom, instant removal for perjury.
It's why we fucked up Jordan's case, and I was so upset, is because we were not able to. My biggest problem with that, and it was hard to relay why I was upset. It's because I don't think they understood what they did wrong, and it was by getting the suspect or people that are helping with this crime effectively now tell you what their alibi is. They're now trapped in that box, and their attempt to break out of that box is either going to make them say too much, say something stupid, perjure themselves, etc.
Yeah, essentially you forcefully inject the lateral limits of their story, and if they breach beyond the boundary of those lateral limits, then as long as the thing is that requires a lot of precursor discovery. I would need to know, what does Mel Rickenbacker volunteer? What does Wayne Biggis volunteer? So if I can, that's something I might reach back to Sergeant Hunter about, and also ask these other 4 witnesses that you've given me now, is where was Mel Rickenbacker? Where was Wayne Biggis? What could they possibly volunteer? And if I understand the angle and the basis of the truth that they're going to start in, I can give them an electrified fence of their perspective. In the instant that they stray out of that fence, I'm going to zap them with perjury.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And not to mention, it's only 2 witnesses. That can't be that much to deal with. The question is, someone would need to do that legwork on the PD side as well, because I don't think, without you getting PD assistance in this investigation, I don't think it's going to go very far. What I mean, but once again, this comes back to how hard you want to push this, how hard the PD wants to push this. But given in the most, let's say this was the biggest, most important thing, that's something you want to go through high command with, or AJ Hunter directly. Make sure enough questioning is done, enough interrogation is done, etc., etc.
So the last time that we tried to dual head something like this, I feel like that there was a break in the chain between the investigating officer and the district attorney who was assigned to the case. And if we can try that chain link,
I wish I could help him on this more.
PD work in tandem,
but this is the most I could help him with.
What I need and what I can find through subpoena and documentation, and what you
the case
as
is
an
cool.
officer can find through legwork and interrogation, and we marry those 2 things together. I feel like that would be incredible. But we need to get it to work right, and we need the right DA, and we need the right officer in order to make it work.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this requires a lot of paperwork, a lot of questioning, a lot of coordination.
Yeah. So like the things that, like, let's say for example, you were my assigned officer and I was the assigned DA on this case, and I would say, I need you to go talk to law enforcer and ask these questions, and also, I trust your best judgment. If you feel like that there are any other questions you need to ask, go ahead and ask them. And you would be out there collecting the boot work information for me, whereas I would be going and arguing with Pillbox and getting all the medical documentation. I would be arguing with the judges and saying, I need to subpoena these people, I need to get these people court ordered to come to court, and finding other pieces of the spider web that you could then go down.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
realistically, that's not going to happen, though.
I mean, just thinking about it, it's a logistical nightmare, but pardon my language, but how fucking amazing would it be if it worked out?
In a different city, I think that'd be more likely. Here, I mean, some bitch died. This is probably the best you're gonna get. Yeah.
Why is it so fucking true? Oh, I'm gonna cry.
I respect the work you do. Like, I understand that you guys have the as much as I sometimes, I've said things about the DA's office, but I also understand that you guys have probably the hardest challenge amongst it all. Ultimately, cases are very difficult to win without physical evidence and positive ID. Like, it's just due to the limits of the world we live in.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a lot of lateral limits that we have to operate within, and that can be very stressful. However, I feel like that there's no good frame of comparison between what an officer of the peace and an officer of the court does in order to say, well, my job sucks more than yours, or your job sucks more than mine. I mean,
True.
We're here to do something for this city. We're here to bring justice, god damn it. And
Hell yeah.
We're gonna do it the best we can.
That's where I normally aim for the head, to be honest.
What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, I killed 2 serial killers this week alone. One with my hands and one by getting them to die in Bolingbrook.
And you're 100% sure that you want to say that to the district attorney?
Yeah, because she was in Bolingbrook and she needed blood, so she died. I'll put her in custody. And the second one wanted me to kill him with a knife, and I refused. And then he did suicide by cop.
Oh, okay, so he ran at you with a knife, so you opened fire. Okay, gotcha. That makes sense. One needed blood in prison. I mean, was it just not medically available?
Well, it's called vampirism, like the slang for it, but she was a experiment out of Russia, and she required, she was stabbing people roughly once a week, taking their blood and consuming it, and the blood would oxygenate her blood. I don't know, there's a whole thing. I've got it all written down in my notes.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Okay, then.
Yeah, so because she was in prison, the availability to, rip someone's jugular and drink the blood would not be easy to do due to the DOC and whatnot.
Yeah.
So she ended up dying. I believe her kidneys failed or something.
So were her... Did she have to take it from a live subject? Could she have a blood...
We went over those. She was my potential baby mama, but there's a whole thing. We did go down those options, but there was not a option that we could find.
Brian, have you ever paused, just taken a deep breath, and considered what a long, strange trip you've been on?
I mean, I've had fentanyl smuggled in my asshole a few weeks into becoming a cop.
And
so,
it doesn't stop.
Yeah, it doesn't stop.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna ask command, or PD command / PD high command. I'll send them like an email through our distribution list and say, hey, can I get investigator assigned? Do you mind if I ask if I cooperate with you on this?
With me?
Yeah.
I if I'm gonna be purely honest, I would rather. I am more interested in showing a cop what they need to do, because right now my hands are I'm oversubscribed on investigations and whatnot. Due to me being the victim of this thing, I don't want that to go into question and that get brought up in questioning as to who did the legwork and could I have tried to drive or misconstrue things a certain way. So I am more than willing to help another officer do what is needed in order for you to succeed, rather than be the driver, because I won't have the cycles and it's dangerous to the case.
Okay. Is there any member of command around right now?
No, but I would email them, and one that I would recommend is Officer Moulton.
Oh, absolutely.
And I would recommend Wrangler. However, he's currently a cadet, and the other thing is, due to him being fairly new, his his ability to pick up on things that someone like Molten might pick up due to history and whatnot would be a little difficult. Forcer may also be interested. I know she was there on the scene, so it kind of makes sense. But those would be the I'd say Molten, Forcer are your two best bets right now.
Is Sergeant Hunter around?
Hunter is not around. But you can ask him as well.
Okay. 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 Well, I'll see if I can get an officer assigned to me. I'll probably ask for Malton, just considering the gravity of the case, and I know that Malton does good paperwork. And I feel like that Malton would be a good third party to look inward to this and even interrogate Sergeant Hunter and say, "Hey, what do you recall? What can we gather from you as a statement?"
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's a really good idea. I like the idea of a third party. It just makes sense for a number of reasons.
Because being personally and emotionally charged, you can alter your statements, and if your statements are altered due to emotional involvement, then
oh my god, thank you for understanding that. You know how difficult it is to explain why that's fucking important to people that are fucking brain dead?
Because if you are emotionally charged and giving a emotionally charged response, emotionally charged is a fabrication to the truth that you perceive, and a fabrication is always going to be unstable.
Exactly. Then again, I'm not able to put it as eloquently as you can. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, I'm here to help as much as I can. Yeah, just let me know.
I appreciate it, and I also appreciate you taking the time to go through some mental gymnastics with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is some of my favorite shit, to be honest.
I think we both tagged up at the same time. Yes, we did.
6 months
there we
already?
Go.
Hell yeah, may die helia.
There we go.
All right, best of luck.
Yep, appreciate it. Stay safe, Brian.
Oh, that's not my car. 495, show me back, 10-8.
And then I forget about it. I sleep with that. I'd like to go on duty again.
That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. That was a hell of a lot of fun right there. Oh my god.
387 tonight.
Dispatch 696, 677, and 638. Please, 1025 admission repeating.
Time for. Be right there. I'm getting medical treatment.
Let me hold on, let me get ammo real quick. Yeah, no, oh yeah, no, of course we still gotta get him. Whether or not whatever Brian's take is on it is irrespective of whether or not the warrant needs to be served, because that's already up there. Do you guys, if anyone has any questions about any of that conversation that happened, because maybe it may have gone over some folks' head, feel free to ask. But what I really liked about that conversation is we touched on some topics that I tried to bring up at the time and in chat when I was getting a lot of shit about why I can't be the one doing this. And he gets it because I don't know. Logic isn't something that you just like pick up. You know what I mean? It's a learned trait. And there's certain
911 is good for back tonight.
It doesn't, at the end of the day, just because you're RPing on the server doesn't mean you're going to learn logic. And he actually knows his shit. You know what I'm saying? And if someone is it, understand logic, it's hard to convince them of an argument because you'd have to teach them logic along the way. And that's taxing.
Well, I can't understand shit that she says anyway.
677-202.
For example, if someone were to throw like a straw man argument
Yeah.
when you're arguing with them,
450 from 202.
you could be like, yo, hello.
Are you with a Katarina?
You'd be like, yo, that's fucking a straw man, you know?
People talking.
And then you'd have a debate as to what a straw man is instead of letting that conversation continue.